Hey there, friends. It's Bill, the writing doctor. In our last video together, we were looking at fifth grade responses that were completely off topic. In our ECR series, we're calling those La La Land. When you watched the first 3 hours of the live session, I went over almost 30 different ways that your kids can get zeros based on ideas that are in the rubric and things that TA have told us ever since 2015. So now we're going to see two responses that talk a little bit about the story S or the selection S, but one of them just gives a summary S of some parts of it, not the parts that were the most important. So what we have to do is train the kids how to remove the ideas that don't work based on the topic and place some in that will help us come up with a central idea statement. The other one, when they said explain how the character's kindness helped him throughout the story, the key word was how. And the students, probably a lot of them, thought that his kindness was supposed to be helping the others. That's not what the prompt said. And so, what I'm going to show you today is our same little tear for ECR sheet so that we can use the topic and then break it apart just like the pieces of a puzzle. In fact, I went to Dollar Tree and purchased a puzzle for you so that you could see what it's like to have an already established prompt that has a topic, how you can lay them out on a puzzle piece once it's put together, and then move them around so that your students can, who are in Zero Land and La La Land, can simply restate the parts of the prompt that are important to make sure they're worded correctly and then add in the ideas. So remember, we need to have something about the specific kindness that the rabbit had. And we also need to talk about how that kindness towards the snake helped him throughout the story. So from the text, evidence. Okay, so let's take a quick look at for those of you who might not have seen the last video, it's a fifth grade genre. Sorry, I had my dinner and I was eating with my bare hands like a caveman. Sorry about that. So the fifth grade uh, passage for ECR was a story genre, basically, even though they called it a selection. I don't know why they didn't just call it a story because it was part of a bigger piece, I guess. And the purpose of writing was informative expository. All right. The prompt. Reminder, your students are going to see the 5 bullets on how to get a 5. And they're going to see 4 more bullets on things they need to remember to do before they turn it in. And so what I'm going to show you how to do this time is use this topic to plug them in to an already put together puzzle piece and then rearrange them in a way so that we can make sure that we did what we talked about. We need to make sure that we base our answer and our response whether it's restating, rephrasing, or reflecting on evidence. Okay, so there we have the paragraphs and the specific ones that we chose. He gave advice to the snake about how to keep warm. There were other things. That was his kindness if the students want to add that. Okay. So what you can do in 2 sentences is do that restating or repeating of many of the prompt words. But then on the next sentence, you can add the kindness and then how it helped him throughout the selection. Evidence from the text. Okay. So here's the two that I was talking about. Response one, you can see he's helping them. Okay. And it kind of has a little bit of how he helped the snake. And so if he can talk about because his kindness of helping the snake, and you don't need to go into 3, 4, 5 sentences about it. You can, for your central idea, you just need one sentence, your central idea statement, and then you can tell what happened. There was because he helped the snake warm up, effect, he received a gift of hypnotic powers. Okay. So it says the central idea is not evident. Okay. And that it's mostly a summary. So you just can't rewrite everything from the text because what that means is there's nothing, no original writing. So if almost everything is from the text, that means I could highlight almost all of this entire response in yellow because it was basically evidence. Nothing came from the student's head. So if I remove all the evidence and there's nothing left, then I can't give you anything except a 0. Zero original writing was one of the many ways that you can get a 0. So the second one, it said his kindness helped him throughout the selection, which was true because many people like kind animals and they have a lot of respect for him. Now, if by helping animals, causing them to have a lot of respect for him, but because that happened at the beginning of the story and in some cases before the story even started, that evidence might be needed to skip using that story remote that I told you guys about. So here is one way that you can teach your kids. I looked at this puzzle, and the cool thing is you get to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You get to learn some mathematic shapes, some names, some colors, some animals. So there's a bunny there. And it was just a coincidence. Okay. So the bunny helped the snake. Unfortunately, we don't have a snake and we don't have a wolf. But if the bunny uh, would have had a snake here and a wolf here, then it would have really fit well in our story. So here's what I did. Shift, because our sentence is going to have to start with a capital. Explain how, and all these little dots, I'm pretending like those are little M&Ms. What are we doing here? What is capital? Explain, prompt, how, the W, so how, ela, oraz, who, kindness, what, helped him, what and who, throughout the selection, throughout the story, evidence from the text, 2 or 3. Because depending on your students, you've got to have a little bit about the kindness, because his kindness towards the snake directly related to his gift. And then period. So the cool thing is I'm going to need that piece and I'm going to need that piece. So let me show you. I did our evidence that we already discussed. If I can put those ideas in 2 sentences, we're going to be okay. All right. So shift. Elira's kindness helped him dropped one that I'm going to need throughout the selection, and then we can go ahead and put a period there. Okay. Now we have it like the way many of you are teaching your kids who struggle, but unfortunately, many of you are teaching your kids to do this all year long, even your GT kids that can do well sometimes in spite of us. They don't even need to be taught. Okay. So we're going to remove the word explain because that's not part of a central idea statement, that just telling us that that's where the prompt is. Okay. So I'm going to pull off all the pieces that don't have anything in case I want to use them to write a few extra words or phrases. All right. So we want to kind of do our second sentence in chronological order. Okay. I would probably say I would do shift because I want to start my next sentence with a capital. Probably a pronoun, I, or he, sorry. He was giving advice. And so he giving advice to the snake. He was giving advice to the snake. Okay. Because that's kind of vague, you might want to add this detail about how to keep warm. I got that from the paragraph. Okay. And so it's picking and choosing the ones that we're going to need, and ends up, so I'm going to be skipping. It ends up getting him a gift from the snake. Well, what is this gift? Uh, how to keep warm. And he was giving advice to the snake about how to keep warm, and gets a gift from the snake. So again, we're just trying to make sure our sentence sounds good and looks good. Gift of the snake of hypnotic power. So I've got 2 pieces left. And so this is me trying to explain my how it's going to help him. So the gift is helpful that he uses power. So since I had power on the previous one, you don't want to repeat that he uses on the fox that gets him to leave forever. So our first sentence is our restate the prompt that a lot of you want to make sure that your kids do. And remember, it has to be about helping him, not helping. He was helping people, but they want to know if whatever you do comes back to you, how did it help him? Well, he received a gift. Okay. And so if you want to leave what forever, I'm just going to put this word in there. We learned the habitat of these rabbits was called a warren. So leave the warren forever. We want to add that in there. And then we can have another period. So what you see here is me saying, okay, I need the topic so that I can use the evidence to come up with an answer where I'll first restate the topic and then use a couple pieces of evidence. Okay. Now, that's the big idea. At least it'll be on the right track. This is not a story about myself. This is not um, a how-to that we saw in the last video. This is specific um, details that are related to the evidence that we could use as part of our central idea statement. Now, if you want to add something that comes from your head as well, that's always a good thing because if you don't do it here, you've got to do it in the body. So you might say, which caused the warren, the rabbits, all the families in the warren to live happily ever after. Okay. But because it says, how does it help him? It allows him to live in peace in Warren forever. That was basically what you're able to infer. No one's going to be bothering them. Because remember, at the beginning of that story, we had the italics. So uh, the idea is, what is the effect of this gift that he received of hypnotic power that he used to get the snake away forever, which caused him to live at peace and not worry about his life. So something, one or the other, some idea needs to eventually come from your student's head, but this gets them more on track by writing all the pieces of the puzzle called a prompt, breaking them apart, and then putting them back together in a way that sounds good and looks good. So hope you like the idea. You can try that. If you think that the the idea of breaking the prompt apart in all grade levels, have your students be only worry about shift or capital if your students are not putting capitals on all proper nouns or the first word. Periods and commas, let them have their own puzzle piece of, so that semicolons or colons. If you're going to end up using those in secondary, make sure that the kids allow the punctuation marks to have their own puzzle piece to kind of make this work, because we want to make sure that every sentence starts with a capital, underline, capitals, the first word, proper nouns. So uh, I know that students get bored of the same old way, and we can say my way or the highway, or we can say, you know what, I gotta bring some CPR to my training. And so just by allowing them, what you can do is have a little contest. If you go to Dollar Tree, buy 4 or 5 24-piece puzzles, which will give them enough to write the prompt, and then give them enough to write ideas based on evidence. Okay. So even though most of the ideas were evidence, we can teach the kids to progress and now say, okay, if the evidence is, sorry about that, if the evidence is on the lines, then explaining is writing, writing between the lines, or if you're doing it on a computer, typing between the lines. And so because we restated the prompt in our first sentence, and then we had some of the evidence of the gift and how it helped him, then we would need to have something with that, because some idea needs to come from your student's head based on this combination of topic and evidence. So I know that some of you would feel that your students wouldn't want to do this activity because they're secondary, but you'd be surprised that if we get out of the norm and do something different, then kids suddenly become more engaged. So bring some color, bring give your writing some CPR, bring it to life. And if they're struggling with conventions, make sure you practice conventions by allowing the shift or a capital button to have its own piece of the puzzle. Thank you, guys. What I was going to say is if you buy 4 or 5 of them, then they can have a contest putting it together first and then breaking it down piece by piece, and then making sure that they're able to either restate, because what you would do next, if I'm trying to get to 2 land, 3 land, I might say, okay, what words could we remove? Well, assisted him, worked to his advantage. Depending on the grade level, you don't have to use the exact words. You can use any words that mean the same thing. His kindness, it's kind of a compositional risk to remove kindness and replace it with another word that's basically revising. Um, but what you might teach the kids to do first is say, okay, what I'm going to say, wow, WOW, what one word, what other way could I write it? Uh, what original way? But I don't need to be original or fancy if I'm getting zeros. I just need to make sure that I'm plugging in the right puzzle pieces. And I think this is one way you can make that happen. God bless you guys, and have a wonderful rest of your day whenever you're watching this. See you later.